So yeah, other than that, like overall, I did enjoy this film.
You enjoyed it?
I did enjoy it. I won't go to cinema again. I'll maybe watch it again.
Yeah.
On TV. I think it's a film it's either going to do well over time as people understand. It's kind of like, say, like The Matrix.
Yeah.
Where people kind of then started to understand it, get the idea of what the consequences were, and then maybe people will start like this. But
I thought it was fine. Like fine. I thought it was made the way, like we already said, it was shot. I thought it was shot phenomenally. I thought it was incredible. The visuals were incredible, but I thought all in all it was fine. But it's a film that I have to rewatch.
I'll tell you one thing I did like. I just liked being back in the cinema and just sitting
there. I agree, mate.
Yeah, back in the cinema.
Totally agree, mate.
Lovely. Okay, so what I didn't like. Let's talk about. We kind of spoke about you couldn't hear anything. Poor sound mixing.
Okay.
The sound mixing's awful. And when I was watching it, because when the scene came up, when he meets the doctor who's explaining inversion, I made sure I was like, right, I really need to focus here because this is where they're going to explain everything. Tell me the rules of what's to come so I can understand what the consequences are and what the stakes are when this happens. But then I was like, I can't hear them. Am I being stupid? And then when I looked online, a lot of people have complained about it.
Yeah.
Said, I can't hear them.
Yeah, I know obviously you saw this film before me, and I know you said to me before I watched it that it was a problem for you. And then when I watched it, I didn't have as big of an issue as you did, but there were definitely certain scenes where it seems as though with Christopher Nolan, I've noticed in these past few films, dialogue takes a backward step and more sound and effect is his main priority.
He has spoken about it, and he says he feels stories should be visual. You should understand it from the visuals, and I get what he's saying, but when you're dealing with complex storylines, you need to have dialogue. And I think it came from people ripping on the Joseph Gordon-Levitt character from Inception, because he just spouts out just explaining dialogue the whole time, and that's all his character is, and everyone kind of laughed at that was his only purpose, and now he's kind of abandoned all of that. But
I don't think it's a good idea whatsoever.
Yeah, but I did notice when, because I watched Inception the other night, characters do talk a little bit quieter. I'd say go back to something I did like. The score was good. I like it.
The score was great, and it wasn't Zimmer, was it?
No. So yeah, and then we move on to sort of the complexity. It's too overly complex. And
way too complex.
And I think it's been too complex for its own good.
Yeah, and it's self-indulgent.
Yeah, and it's trying to be too smart. And I think this is something he's falling into because he did this with Interstellar.
I agree, and I didn't like Interstellar. I preferred this to Interstellar, but this is his issue. He's trying to be too confusing, too complex, and I completely second that.
Yeah, and this is where I think, because this is like Inception. This film I feel was very much like Inception.
Yeah, definitely.
But when I was watching Inception, the difference is I get the premise.
Yeah.
The premise actually of Inception is very simple. You go into dreams, you die in the dream, you wake up. If you fall in your dream, you wake up.
Yeah.
And I get that, and they say, and so much of Inception is just devoted to explaining what Inception is, and you have that, like Ellen Page is kind of the fish out of water, in that we follow her, and they are telling her information, and so that's how we learn. But there's no character in Tenet that's doing it.
Yeah.
John David Washington should be, but they tell him early on, don't worry
about it, yeah.
And they never explain any more to him. But in Inception, they're always explaining.
Yeah.
And the characters are asking questions, and they're giving them answers, and then we understand.
Yeah.
And it needed a Joseph Gordon-Levitt kind of character who just says, this is why this happened, this is why this happened. And then when it gets to the end of Inception, because they've explained that if you go in a dream, it gets harder. And it's like, you don't want to go past like 4 levels because of how bad it's going to get and how slowly time's going to move. So you get that with the risks they are taking.
Yeah.
I didn't understand the final battle of Tenet.
No, I didn't at all.
It's a complete cluster.
The last act of Tenet lost me completely. I was just gone. Like I was slowly losing interest as well.
Because because so what they do is called invert. There's some tactic. You invert yourself, and then your person goes. You've got two of you now, haven't you? You've got two people who, one that's not inverted, one that is inverted. So you know the actions of what's going to happen, so you can beat them.
How confusing on its own does that fucking sound?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Then I understand. So when we see people moving, right. So so do you remember the scene? There's a scene.
Stressful, isn't it?
John David Washington fights a guy in a mask.
Yeah.
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 And then he's...
We're not spoiling that scene.
Yeah. Then he slides out the room.
Yeah.
Then we realise, actually, he was fighting himself inverted.
We did spoil it.
And then he slides... I don't care. We said spoilers.
Yeah, true.
So he slides in. I don't understand. Is it from the uninverted John David Washington's perspective, he's moving in time with him, and then from the inverted one, he's moving backwards?
I don't know. This is my issue, because that scene in particular, and then the other scene with the car, all of these amazing set pieces happening, and they look stunning. All of this looks incredible, but I don't understand the physics behind it at all.
And then the problem is I know in that final, so they get a load of soldiers, invert them all.
Yeah.
Then they do a big siege, like on this building. No, they're going underground to get the equation thing to do inversion. I mean, it's just a clusterfuck.
It really is. It really fucking.
And they're like, oh yeah, so the ones who aren't inverted are in yellow, the ones who are in red. But it's just a little like captain's armband on them, and I did not understand what was going on. Like, what are the risks of these characters taking? Because then, like, a bazooka rocket is going back into his rocket launcher, and the building is going back up.
Yeah, that was a cool shot though.
It looks, and I look at it, I go, this is incredible. But what is happening? What is the risk?
No, I'm glad to hear that you were echoing every single thing, which I thought as well, because I was sitting there thinking, I genuinely during that last scene looked around, and I thought, I hope I'm not the only person in this cinema that doesn't have a fucking clue what's going on in this last half an hour. But everything you were saying is exactly everything I was thinking when I was watching it.
And that's what I think. It's like, say, like The Matrix was always something that was very confusing to people.
Yeah.
But the basic premise is there. Die in the Matrix, you die in the real world.
Yeah.
And I get that. I get the risk the characters are taking with the final scene, in that they can't beat the agents. They're too good for them, so they don't get stuck with them. But, you know, if they die, they're dead. So I get everything that's happened, but I don't get here what is the risk.
Yeah.
Because they're saying you can't see yourself inverted. That would be awful.
Yeah.
But I didn't understand what was then that risk.
Consequence
of that happening. Because aren't they trying to stop World War III? Well, then how's that going? Because then it ends that actually they're trying to stop the world ending anyway, because Kenneth Branagh's going to kill himself. Because...
Did you like his character?
No, I didn't like his character.
No.
Why was he doing a Russian accent?
I thought it was quite... I didn't mind him. I actually didn't mind him.
I didn't mind him. He's a good actor.
He's like, he takes his belt off.
Yeah,
he's
yeah.
like,
he's going to hit Elizabeth Debicki, whatever her name is, yeah. Yeah, he's alright. He's got good rage. He had a good rage face and a rage voice. But that's something I don't understand. So, I didn't get stuff like... He says to John David Washington, I'm going to kill you, when he shows up at his dinner. I can't quite remember what he said, but he says something, and he was like, I'll meet you on the boat. And then they go out, I remember, sailing together. And then I was like, wait, are they friends now? Because then they have like a meeting.
Yeah, it was kind of odd. It was like, they were going out on the boat, and I don't think at that time they were friends, but then because he saved him, he then started to trust him more.
But then why did he let him on the... Why was he so adamant to kill him? I didn't really understand what he said, because, again, the sound mix, and didn't really get the gist of it. He just spoke about some weapons, and he was like, yeah, I'll see you on the boat later. And I just didn't get it. Like, what...
Well, this is one of the reasons. This is a film that it needs to be rewatched. There's so many different elements.
Yeah.
For sound elements, for story beats, for everything. You need to rewatch. It needs to be rewatched.
Yeah, I guess it does. But yeah, it's just got major problems in that it's been far too complex for its own good.
Yeah.
It doesn't want to answer the questions that we would have.
Totally.
But say Inception answers every single question. And
the point you made is brilliant, by the way, about how in Inception you follow that character who's learning all about Inception.
Yeah.
So we as the audience learn through her eyes.
Well, yeah,
such a good point.
The perfect scene is she walks along with Leonardo DiCaprio and she's asking questions. She's saying, why is everyone looking at me? And he's going, because they're my subconscious and they don't like people in a dream that isn't me.
Yeah.
And they're working out who's the odd one out.
Yeah.
And then that works really well later because they talk about how you can train your subconscious to be militarized, and when they go after Cillian Murphy, he has been trained and all his subconscious militarized. They've all got guns, and you get it immediately. You're not like, why is this happening?
Yeah.
But I feel like Tenet would never explain that.
What the problem that Nolan had, and this wasn't a problem with Inception, the problem he's had in his most recent films are that the characters have really there's been hardly any character development. We don't feel for any of these characters anymore.
No, and I didn't like sort of like the impassive tone of it. It's very drab and just kind of wandering tone. I didn't really get what he was going for. It's like, and like Robert Pattinson is very good in the role, but who was he?
Yeah, this is the thing. He was great in the role, but I didn't really feel any. What's the word I'm looking for? I don't know, but I didn't sympathise with his character. I didn't empathise with his character. Same goes for the protagonist, sorry. The only character I kind of felt I sort of had a connection with slightly was the lead woman.
Yeah, Elizabeth Beacon.
But that was it, and not even that much. And